Hi everybody, Jessie here from jessiebanks.com and welcome back to another video. So for today's video, we're going to look at the Brea Reese Professional watercolors. I haven't played with these at all. I use professional in quotation marks simply because of the price point. On the Brea Reese website, they are $9.99 American for 12 colors. I can't find any pigment information, etc., etc., but you don't need artist grade watercolors to make beautiful cards. So this is kind of what I'm looking at these for. So in the Classics collection, you get titanium white, cadmium yellow, peach, orange, cadmium red, deep rose, lake blue, phthalo blue, violet, Kelly green, brown, and Mars black. There's three colors that go between both, and that is titanium white, violet, and Mars black. But in the jewel set, you get titanium white, yellow ochre, crimson, magenta, Prussian blue, ultramarine blue, violet, sap green, phthalo green, raw umber, Payne's gray, and Mars black. So we're going to swatch all these out and kind of see what we think. I do have two strips of watercolor paper here with a black line to check transparency, as well as all of the colors written across the bottom. We will start out with the Classic set. I will pull this in just to do like the titanium white, the violet, and the Mars black as we get to them, so that I don't have to squeeze it out of the next tube when we get to the second one. So we'll start with the Classic, so let's put that off to the side. Pull out my Classic swatch sheet here, and I am going to pull in just a glass plate that I use for watercoloring. I use this all the time. I pick them up at Dollarama here in Canada. They're like $3 a piece or something like that, so if I wreck them, then I don't have to feel super bad and guilty about it because they were cheap and I break things. So I am going to use a Princeton Neptune round number 8. This is a synthetic squirrel brush. It's a very pretty brush. I like it a lot. I have a massive brush collection, so I have a couple of jugs of water here to rinse things off. They're off screen, but that's okay. So I'm starting off with the titanium white. So as you can see on the tube here, let's see, let's zoom in for a second, Jessie. So you can see on the tube here, so you get the name. It says Professional Watercolor, Titanium White, and then it's got it in two other languages at the bottom. One's French, I'm not sure about the other. And on the back it says directions and tips, www.brearereese.com, and a phone number, conforms to ASTM D44236. Non-toxic, professional grade watercolors, highly pigmented color. But it gives me no colors or light fast information, oops, wrong direction, or anything of that nature. But let's see how they do. So I'm going to take our tube here. So these are much like the Daler and Rowney tubes and things, where the top of it is sealed over. The top of your lid, I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera because it's black and I'm a ways away, but in your lid you've got a little poker. So you take it and you unscrew your lid, turn it upside down, stick it on top, and push. And that should break through the layer there and allow you to get to your paint. So I'm just going to squeeze out a tiny little bit here because I don't need a ton of it all on the palette to wipe away later. I will have a project done on these, not on this video, it'll probably be up next week. But, so we're going to add some water to our titanium white and start by swatching that. So I'm going to start with the darkest color up at the top, coming over top of our black line to see how transparent it is. Need a little more water, that's a little thick. And then wash it out. And it's white, so I mean, you're not going to see a whole lot. But I'll do it on this one as well so that I don't have to squeeze it out again on the next turn. So that's titanium white. Just clean off my brush. And I'm going to wipe the white out of the palette because I find when white's dry, they're a little more difficult to remove. They tend to dry a little chalkier and things of that nature. We will see how chalky and whatever these may dry when we're done. So we're going to continue on through the rest. So the next one is our cadmium yellow. I've already popped this one open, I guess. I didn't know that. Weird. I didn't think I'd use these. Maybe I'd popped a couple open just to see how they were going to dry when I bought these like a year ago. So I will have the link to wherever I can find these in stock down below. I picked them up at Walmart here in Canada, so it's a fairly transparent color. That makes me happy. It's a little chunky down there, but that could just be because I didn't add enough water to mix it in. So next up is peach. I popped a few of these open. I must have been intending on reviewing these right away because I have some, but they don't have any color on the, I'm not sure what happened. Anyway, I've had these for so long I could have popped them open and just not even noticed. So here's our peach color. I'm really into peachy tones lately. I've been mixing them lots in my other watercolor sets, so I'm not sad to have one. I really like using them in vintagey colored florals and things of that nature. Next up is orange. Okay. So these tubes don't reseal very well if I popped these open because they're getting pretty hard to squeeze out already. I'm not sure how they dry in pans, so I'm scared to pan them all out. But make sure your lids are on nice and tight. Ooh, that is pretty. That is a very vivid orange. It's a true orange, which makes me happy. It's not easy to find real nice orange colors in watercolor. I tend to have to mix them just because I can't find a real like pumpkin-y orange like that. Next up, oh, that one come out like crazy. That one didn't dry out at all. Cadmium red, which for $9.99 I'm going to bet that it's a hue. Again, all of these things that I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with them. For the price point, just with this kind of testing, they seem fairly well. I do want to leave these all on the palette because at the end I will pull out a chunk of watercolor paper and we will do some color mixing and things to see what kind of colors we can get in terms of, like for my florals and things that I like to use regularly, I like to be able to have them easily mixable and not get muddied. Some colors tend to muddy up. So this is Deep Rose, which reads more like a quinacridone magenta to me. Pretty color. Let's see if we can get it a little darker up at the top here and wash it out. I'm not getting great fades on these. That simply could be the way I'm painting them on. But I'm getting a great tone for the color, so that's easy enough to wash out with more water and things later when you're painting. Next up is Lake Blue. So once all of these dry on the palette, I will put a note in the description box below, right up near the top, so it's easy to find if you guys are looking for it, as to how they dried, if they cracked, all that kind of goodness. That's a beautiful, more cerulean type color. I would love to wash out very, very pale for skies. Phthalo Blue. This is a color I use lots in my mixes and things when I'm painting greens and flowers and skies and all sorts of stuff. It's a beautiful mixing color in terms of my professional grades. These two colors are very similar. Let's see if I can get this darker. So this Phthalo Blue is not as pigmented as I would like. Now lots of people love Brea Reese for their liquid watercolors and things that they have. I don't have any of those. I haven't tried any, so I don't have any opinion on those. I do know the Phthalo Blue leaves something to be desired in my mind. Again, for the price point though, you really can't go wrong for 10 bucks. Like, oh, this one's not open. So I'm going to pop this one open again. There we go. Here's a little dollop of purple. Violet. The color's called Violet, Jessie. Call it what it's called. Purples are a very tough color to do in lots of mediums, including like if you're big into eyeshadows and stuff. Purples are not the easiest color in the world to formulate in any sort of artsy medium. Kelly Green. I will rearrange these after in rainbow order between the two trays. Just because that's how I like things kept. But Kelly Green, that's a beautiful color. I love the Kelly Green shades in anything. I think it's gorgeous. This one is brown. Come on. There you are. Let's give you a little bit more of that. It's a very warm brown. Would mix great into some skin tones as well as like tree stumps and things of that nature. And the last color in the classic set is Mars Black. This one's not open. I don't paint with a lot of black. I tend to mix my own, unless I'm using Lunar Black from Daniel Smith, which I only love because it granulates so pretty. I was going to say prettily. So pretty. Wow. Learn how to speak. I haven't done a live video like this where I'm not voicing it over in a very long time, so that's why I'm kind of not sure what to say here. Well, that's got lots of pigment to it. Like, it's fades out into a really pretty gray. There's a little bit of texture in there, which makes me happy. So we're going to set this one off to the side and let it dry. Put these back here, and I'm going to pull out our jewel set. So the jewel set is definitely deeper, more jewel tone type colors. And let's swatch these out. So I've already done the titanium white here, which is dry. You can see how it's slightly opaque, which are most whites. Like I said, I don't use a lot of white paint, but so I'm going to start out with yellow ochre. Which, in that form looks, that's a very pretty color. I like that ochre. It's a very nice yellow ochre, actually. That makes me happy. We'll see how transparent it is once it dries. Next up is crimson. Oh, I forgot to do violet here, but when I get to it, I'll swatch it from up top there. This is definitely a deeper, more jewel toned red, which you would expect being the jewel tone set. I really like it. It's definitely not too similar to either of our reds in the classic set. Oh, I'm off screen here. Either of our reds here in the classic set are definitely way brighter and then way pinker. So I like when there's not very, very similar colors between the two sets. I like having a wide variety of colors. Then we have the magenta, which is going to be a deep, more pink color. Okay, that's gorgeous. That's very pretty. I like how nice and deep it gets up at top. The color doesn't seem too washed out right at its mass tone, which makes me happy. This one is Prussian blue. Again, another color I like to use lots for deeper skies and ocean scenes and things of that nature when I'm painting. It doesn't have a very deep mass tone, which is not ideal, but it's a pretty color. Then I have ultramarine blue. Now your standard ultramarine blues are made from PO49, or no, PB29. They should granulate. I don't know why I was saying PO49. That's quinacridone gold. That's like my favorite color. Anyway, so they naturally have a granulation to them. If you want something that doesn't granulate, Schminka's Ultramarine Finest is about the best. This granulates. That makes me happy. That makes me happy. It's not a ton of granulation, but you can see the texture in that color. I hope you guys can see it, but there is texture in that color. Not a ton, but it makes me happy that there is some, because that is what I expect from ultramarines. Then we have violet again, so let's mix this up and see if we can get a little bit deeper of a mass tone. Maybe I just didn't use enough pigment on the first one. Nope. I don't like this color. This color disappoints me. Now I have tons of watercolors, so I mean, I'm a little bit of a snob. You can make beautiful cards and projects and paintings and things with these. Don't get me wrong, I'm just comparing them to everything else that I have in my collection. Sap green, another color I use all the time. It's one of my favorites because you can yellow it out or make it more green. That's not a bad job. Not a bad sap green at all. So I have a wide variety of colors between all of these sets. It's actually giving me a fairly nice palette. I don't dislike it. How it's going to mix, I don't know yet. We'll find out shortly. So this is phthalo green, a color that tons of people use all the time in color mixing. It's not a color people paint with directly out of the tube quite regularly, but it is highly regarded in mixing. Raw umber. Nice cooler black in comparison, or cooler brown in comparison to the brown in the classic set. And then we have Payne's Gray. Oh, that was a lot. Most Payne's Grays are on the bluer side, so seeing that blue come out of it makes me happy. Payne's Gray is not a color I paint with lots. I know lots of people love it. I can kind of take it or leave it, so. And then Mars Black is again in this set. So there is the entirety of the Brea Reese tube watercolor collection. Let's get that out of the way for a moment here. So if we take a look at these, we don't have a lot of overlap. Like I said, you have these three colors. So your titanium white, your violet, and your Mars black. Your sap green and Kelly green are vastly different, which makes me happy. Your two browns are very different. You get the Payne's Gray, which is actually more of a navy blue as opposed to a Payne's Gray in my personal opinion. But it will pair nicely in with these two colors that are super similar. If I washed this one out a little bit more, it would almost be identical to that lake blue. The Prussian blue is meh. The ultramarine I'm impressed with. I mean, it's not the best ultramarine I've ever seen. For $10 a pack, though, you guys, you could paint some beautiful florals out of these. Let me grab just another piece of paper here. I just want to set these so that I can see what I'm doing. Give me a moment, and we will be back and do some color mixing. I just want to let these samples dry. Okay, so my little swatch sheets are basically dry as I'm going to let them get before I carry on here anyway. And I have my palette here. I put a little bit more titanium white in there just to see what I can mix. And let's do some mixing and see what we can come up with. So I know one of the favorite colors people mix are ultramarine blue and burnt sienna to give you what they call Jane's Gray. We don't have a burnt sienna, but I am going to go with just the brown. And we're going to mix it together with the ultramarine blue and see what happens. So start with some of the brown. Pick up some of the ultramarine blue, which is this one. I don't know where all these colors are on the palette, so I have to keep looking back at my sheet so I can see what everything is. And then let's go down and mix them together and see what we can come up with. I'm going to add a little more brown to that, just to see if we can get more of a gray tone out of it. And actually those mix together quite nice. You get kind of a gray in the middle, and they fade out to give you more of a Payne's Gray, and then just a bluey brown on the other end. That doesn't tick me off. That mixed fairly well. Fairly well. So another thing I like to do is take sap green and mix it with sepia. Now we don't have a sepia in this line, but I am going to try the raw umber. It is a more of a cool toned brown. So we'll lay a bunch of sepia down, or sap green, and then pick up some of the raw umber here. I know my little mixing palette's off screen, but can't have everything on here. So this won't give us quite the range of greens that I get when I mix the others together, but you see how you can kind of brown out that green and give it a little bit more of an earthy color as opposed to being quite vivid, which is what I like to do with sap green in my floral paintings. So the purple I hate. So let's see if we can mix a better purple. Let's start with phthalo blue, because that lake blue doesn't make me happy. It kind of makes me upset. So there's our phthalo blue. I am just doing this on some Canson watercolor paper, so it's nothing expensive. I like to do most of my testing on lesser quality watercolor paper. So that purple makes me vastly happier than that one. And we could probably mix one. Let's take some of the ultramarine blue. No, where am I here? I can go here yet. And mix in some of the deep rose here, which is more of a brighter color as opposed to their magenta, which is deeper. You get more of a red shade of purple. So you can definitely mix these, which is nice. It means that they're not a whole ton of colors to make all of these, so you can mix different colors that you want. This peach, I still think that if I take white and put white on the page, take a tiny little bit of the orange, I took too much orange, and mix it in. If I add more white to that, I can mix that peach. That peach color is kind of not a necessity in this palette, because with the orange you can virtually mix that color. It's a little pinkier. If I want to take that away, I just add a little bit of yellow. Now it's too yellow, but you can see how you can kind of play with it and get a peachy color. I mean, that's the peach that I mixed just without a whole lot of work here. Let's add a little more of that orange that's on there to it. So that's my peachy color that I would just mix on my own when I need it, and that's theirs. Put right against it. So, do you need that peach in this set? I would say no. I would say it's just kind of a useless addition so that you don't have to mix it on your own. If you don't like mixing color, it works out perfect. What else should we mix? Should we try and mix an orange? Let's see if we can make their orange. So let's take their cadmium red. I don't think this is going to work, but we'll try it. And mix in some of their cadmium yellow. I can't get quite as vivid, and that's the brightest red I have. And the only real yellow I have, yellow ochre, I don't really consider yellow. It's more of an earth tone color. So you can't mix the orange. You don't mix a bad orange, but you can't mix that orange. Different greens. If you take ultramarine blue, I'm going to have to put some more of that yellow on my palette here. And cadmium yellow. Yeah, if I have more yellow, I could probably mix a brighter green. Hang on. Whoa, whoa. Let's stick some more yellow on my palette. I don't know if I'm going to like this green. If I don't like it, we'll try it again with the phthalo blue or the lake blue. Find a use for that lake blue that I think is just kind of a waste of time in this palette. Just because those two blues are so similar, I don't think you need both of them. It's not that there's necessarily anything wrong with it. So that's not a real vivid green, but it kind of gets neon-y. I don't mind it. So you can mix that one. If I take the lake blue, or the phthalo blue, because they're pretty much the same color, and mix it with some of that yellow, you can get something quite similar to the Kelly green. So that's why when you hear lots of people talk about watercolors and things, they talk about not needing to buy every color, and that's simply because you can mix things that are so similar to lots of the colors that are made, that come as like greens or mixes of blues and yellows, that kind of thing. You can mix lots of things that are very close, like even this orange. It's quite a ways away, but really it's not too terrible. It's a lot more muted and pastel, or a lot more muted of a tone than the bright vivid orange that you get automatically. If I take the phthalo green, mix it with a little bit of the yellow. Now to make sap green in standard form is quinacridone gold and phthalo green. So I have a big lump of paint on here that doesn't, there we go. So if I go like that, and then I drop in a little bit of maybe the ochre into the yellow and mix those together, we probably get something quite similar to the sap green. So I mean, if you pick yourself up just a few tubes of paint, you can mix a ton of colors. Now on the same note, for $9.99 American, you pay more than that for a tube of paint. So if you're just getting into watercolor and things, I find that these are fairly pigmented. Like the purple leaves something to be desired and stuff like that. But genuinely, they aren't terrible. They mix fairly clean. I don't know how they re-wet yet because they aren't dry on my palette, but you get a fair bit of life out of them. That's what it looks like now, as I've just been pulling colors out of it. You can see the Prussian, or the Payne's gray. It's kind of chalky on the palette. So is the black. Oh, the rest of them are still wet, so I can't really say much. But they work fantastic. So if you're in the market for lots of colors and the ability to still mix and things, for this price, there is nothing to complain about. Like I said, I will be back next week with a little bit of a follow-up on this to paint a project with it, so you guys can see what that looks like. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little mini review. So I will see you all very soon. Bye for now.